The universe is teeming with countless intelligent life forms. Estimated 400 billion stars in our galaxy, 400 billion galaxies in the known universe. We are not alone on this planet, never have been.
I had my first UFO sighting when I was 16 years old, walking down the street in Arlington, Virginia. This is the 26th of July, 1952. The alien vehicles put on a demonstration that the media could not ignore and the government could not cover up. It actually took me 2 years after seeing those 7 red star-like objects wandering in random motion over Washington, D.C., 11:30 in the evening, to 2 years of study to accept for myself that some UFOs are vehicles controlled by more advanced intelligence.
The UFOs are not a threat. They're not the enemy. The threat is from the panic of people who are not prepared for the matter. The American people are intelligent, they're thoughtful, and they're responsible. They simply deserve to be told the truth, and they have a need to be told the truth. And there essentially is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Hello, curious viewers, and welcome to Science and Spirituality on Supreme Master Television. In recent years, there has been an increase in the number of sightings reported globally of unidentified flying objects, or UFOs. Today on our program, we are delighted to present the first in a 3-part series featuring a highly engaging interview with an expert ufologist, Mr. Robert Orrell Dean, also known as Bob Dean, a retired Command Sergeant Major in the U.S. Army. He has completed extensive studies in the fields of archaeology, theology, ancient history, psychology, philosophy, and holds the equivalent of a master's degree in emergency management. When he was in the military, Mr. Dean was trained as an intelligence analyst. After retiring from the U.S. Army in 1976, Mr. Dean worked for 14 years as an emergency services manager for the Pima County Sheriff's Emergency Services Department in Arizona, USA. He has previously served as Pima County Director for the Mutual UFO Network, is a former member of the Center for UFO Studies, and was on the board of directors of the Ancient Astronaut Society for 12 years. He has been honored with 3 Lifetime Achievement Awards for his contributions to the field of ufology. Today, Bob Dean continues to take part in conferences, gives media interviews, and participates in radio and television talk shows to share with global audiences his knowledge of UFOs and beings from other worlds. Our Supreme Master Television correspondent recently conducted an enlightening and eye-opening interview with Mr. Dean. Let us now hear from the wise Bob Dean.
We would first like you to share with our audience when was your first opening to the whole realm of UFOs, and if you could talk a little bit about your background and how you came into this whole field.
I was a professional soldier for most of my life, but I didn't get exposed to this reality of the so-called extraterrestrial presence until 1963. I applied for and received an assignment in 1963 to Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers in Europe, a place called SHAPE, and it was one of those choice plum assignments. And I arrived at Paris in the summer of 1963, and immediately my top secret clearance was upgraded to a level called Cosmic Top Secret. It's the highest level of security classification in NATO. And immediately, with my top secret upgrade to Cosmic, I was assigned to a place called SHOC, the Supreme Headquarters Operations Center, which is the war room. And when I worked in the war room, I learned of a study that was underway. It involved UFOs. And the reason was that a large number of metallic, circular, disc-shaped objects flew from the Soviet Warsaw Pact sector from the east toward the west. These objects were circular, metallic, disc-shaped objects in formation, very obviously under intelligent control. And they flew across Europe, they flew across Germany, France, the southern coast of England, and they turned north over the English Channel, and they disappeared off of NATO radar over the Norwegian Sea on the morning of the 2nd of February in 1961. And it was all over in about 20 minutes. The Soviets thought those objects belonged to us. We thought they belonged to the Soviets. We were to find later that they didn't belong to anybody. And the study was initiated immediately after that event.
A top-secret document entitled The Assessment, an evaluation of a possible military threat to NATO forces in Europe, was completed in 1964. Mr. Dean was given the opportunity to read the study.
That was a spark that kind of kindled my fire in '64. I couldn't leave it, I couldn't walk away from it. The conclusion of the study was quite simple. Apparently there is no threat. Apparently the human race and the planet have been under observation and survey by several advanced extraterrestrial intelligences from the beginning of human history. That was one of the conclusions. They concluded apparently there was no threat involved because the repeated manifestation of incredibly advanced technology indicated that if they had been malevolent or hostile, it would have been over a long time ago. And that began my journey. And I haven't turned back since.
Mr. Dean was highly intrigued by the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations. Their mysteries were slowly unfolded to him after a series of extraordinary events.
Based on that study, an assessment, I was interested in them. Who are they? Where are they from? Why are they here? What's this all about? Why are they interested in us? I began to find out over the years that it wasn't about them at all. It's about us. It really is all about us. Who are we? What are we? How did we come to be here? Why are we here? And is there a purpose? Is there a meaning in our lives? And where are we going? What's the future? Where do we go from here? And that's where I've been for the last 20 years. And I've been speaking out openly, bluntly, candidly, loudly about this subject. Over the years I have developed the ability, and I have been fortunate enough to have face-to-face meetings with some of them. I have been aboard their ships. I was even taken to one of their home planets. Apparently I've had an intimate interrelationship with non-human intelligence since I was 2 years old. My whole life has been involved with them to some degree. It took me many, many years before I began to become aware of my personal involvement. And it took me a long time for me to discard my old world paradigm. And I've learned there is a purpose, there is a meaning.
Another important conclusion of the assessment is that the extraterrestrials visiting Earth are diverse in origin, with some even coming from neighboring galaxies.
The Shape military study concluded that we were dealing with 4 different groups that had been coming and going. They were all humanoid, but they were not all human. But out of those 4 different groups, one group was so totally human, like us. They could sit next to you in a theater, a restaurant, or an airplane, or a bus. Doesn't matter. They could be in your midst, and you'd never know. Good God, they could be everywhere. Well, we were to find over the years that they are pretty much everywhere. They're in our midst. When I retired in '76, we learned that there were at least a dozen more from different places. And we learned back then, as early as 1976, that yes, some of them were interplanetary. Yes, some of them were interstellar. Yes, some of them were intergalactic. And by God, the thing that really upset few that knew the story in those days was some of them apparently were multidimensional. They were popping in and out of portals from other dimensions. And some of the more advanced intelligences that we have encountered over the years have been multidimensional intelligences. Now we are having a relationship with interplanetary visitors, interstellar, intergalactic, but the more advanced ones, the more spiritually advanced, apparently are intergalactic. Well now, that was a difficult lesson to learn, not only by our military and our intelligence authorities, but our scientists. You see, we're looking at science that is 10,000 years beyond our own. And I think Arthur Clarke said it one time, that advanced scientific intelligence would appear to us to be magic. Well, it does appear to many of us to be magic. But it's not magic to them, it's technology to them.
Mr. Dean now shares one of the most important things he has learned over the course of his lifetime about the nature of existence.
There is a purpose to our being here. It's not an accident. I've learned the reality of reincarnation. I've learned the reality there is no death. I learned the reality there is a God. I've concluded we incarnate on this planet, and I've incarnated on this planet many, many times. But I've also had lives on other planets, other star systems, other dimensions. But those who incarnate here on Earth come here for a number of reasons. Basically, it's a school. Planet Earth is one of the better schools in the galaxy. The word is out there that if you can manage to pull off a couple of 3 lifetimes on Earth, you get a silver certificate. Spiritually, you know, you in the great halls out there, you get applause. They take their hat off to you. They bow. If you can go to Earth and pull off 3 or 4 incarnations here, you're highly regarded and you're highly respected, because this is a tough school down here. And those things are important. I'll be 82 on my next birthday, and I've been invited to speak at 3 more conferences next year. And I agreed to come to this interview with you this afternoon because I think this is important, that what I've learned and what I have experienced, it's important to share with people and let them know that there is nothing to fear and that the human race has a glorious future. We've been to the moon, we've been to Mars, and apparently some of our people have been to other star systems. Because apparently 40 years ago we developed not only zero-point energy, but we developed anti-gravity, and we developed the ability to fly faster than the speed of light.
Last week on Science and Spirituality, Mr. Dean revealed that while serving in the military, he was authorized to read a top-secret document called The Assessment. The assessment concluded that the Earth has been under detailed observation by extraterrestrials since the beginning of human history. He states the culture, technology, and development of these otherworldly beings far surpasses anything found on Earth. Bob Dean retired from the Army in 1976. And at that point, he says members of more than a dozen different extraterrestrial civilizations had come to Earth. These individuals are from across the universe and sometimes from other dimensions.
They're not visitors. They're not here as tourists, dropping in for a weekend or something like that. The planet is under quarantine. And the only ones who come and go regularly are the professionals, the anthropologists, the historians, the scientists from their groups. They come regularly. They're here most of the time. It's one of the reasons why there is not about to be a disclosure anytime soon, because the story is simply too big. The things we've seen and the things I've learned firsthand is that this beautiful, wonderful planet that our ancestors called Gaia looked upon her as a goddess, that the planet was alive. Well, I've learned that that's true. This beautiful little blue-green planet is alive. But this planet apparently is one of the richest and ripest zoological gardens in this quadrant of the galaxy. The life forms, the flora and fauna on this planet are practically infinite. Now that's why Earth is such a valuable commodity. There are probably thousands of intelligent species out there. Look upon this little tiny planet, this zoological garden, as an incredibly valuable commodity. I point out to people, you're part of the fauna. And it may be difficult for your ego to deal with. You are simply an occupant in this zoological garden. But now we're dealing with the custodians. They're not visitors. They're not owners. The word that I've gotten it from them, they're kind of custodians. They're protecting and looking after the life on this planet. And the human race is part of that fauna.
Our world is currently going through many serious challenges, most notably climate change. Many spiritual leaders, visionaries, and others see this as a very crucial period for humanity's development.
The human race, the whole species, is undergoing a transcendent transformation, literally from one level of species, one race, into another. The human race is undergoing a form of what I call late adolescence. And I point out to people, if you remember your own adolescence and you remember how painful it was and how difficult it was, the whole species is undergoing a transition from adolescence into adulthood. And we've got some good friends in high places out there, and fortunately, some very good friends who want to see us make it. They don't own us. We are not property, as Charles Fort said one time. But we are not quite finished yet as a race. We are a work in progress. We are an unfinished product. And we've got some good friends in high places that are trying to assist us, to help us get through this transition. And it's an awkward period, but I believe in the human race. It has a future. We are having some rough and difficult times, but we're going to make it. And the reason I decided to come with you this afternoon and give you this interview was hopefully to be able to say to your audience, to the viewers, that people really should not be afraid. They have nothing to fear. We're going to make it through, and we are going to reach a form of adulthood, and we are in time going out there and take our rightful place in this infinite universe filled with intelligent life. And I say to people, your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren are going to the stars. And they're going out there and they're going to take their rightful place. Humans have a right to sit at those great conferences, those great tables filled with all the infinite intelligent life forms out there.
Does our galaxy have a governance system? We asked Mr. Dean whether there is some sort of galactic federation that oversees the affairs of the Milky Way.
There is indeed, surprisingly, something very much like a galactic federation. And I will tell you that the headquarters for that organization is not even in this galaxy. It's in another galaxy. Apparently, the universe is literally teeming with intelligent life. And yes, some of the more advanced races have come together and they have formed an organization. And they do get together frequently and communicate with each other. And Project Earth and Project Human Race is at the top of their list at the moment because we are a difficult, troublesome species. And they are really working to help us get through this transition. Now, most of them went through transitions of this kind in their own histories, ancient histories, going back eons of time, millennia, eons, literally. Some of those advanced species are 1 million years ahead of us, scientifically, spiritually, culturally, psychologically, sociologically. I've seen that, and I've been a part of that, and I've been shown that, which literally has caused my old paradigm to collapse. Because you see, I have seen what can be. I have seen what the human species can ultimately become. And I know that with assistance and help and guidance from a lot of them, we're going to make it. But having seen that, and then coming back and living in this world, I find it very painful.
On previous occasions, through her insights, Supreme Master Ching Hai has shared with the world some of the history of Mars. Some 40 million years ago, runaway climate change, the result of livestock raising, utterly destroyed Mars's surface and atmosphere. The residents who survived this immense catastrophe, all vegetarians, needed to go inside the planet to stay alive.
There are some Martians still survived. You know, the good one, the virtuous one, they survived, but they could not live the way they lived before. They are underground and they have to recycle everything. Water, vegetable, very little thing they have. Around 6 million of them only. And it could happen to us also. It could happen to us like that. That we might have to live underground to survive. And recycle oxygen, recycle vegetable, recycle water, and be frugal and sharing absolutely everything, like the Martian people do. They are not used to with the living on the surface anymore. They're safer down there, because Mars is still not inhabitable yet.
Well, she's right in the fact that there is life on Mars. There is a remnant of a vast civilization on Mars. Mars underwent some very terrible times, tectonically, I think, meteorologically. Mars suffered a great deal. There was some problems, earthquakes. Mars lost most of its surface seas. It lost most of its atmosphere, and the survivors of those cataclysms literally had to go underground. And there are large cities under the surface on Mars. I gave you a photograph taken by the Soviet Phobos 2 spacecraft some years ago, showing a city the size of Chicago.
The Phobos program was an unmanned space mission launched by the former Soviet Union with the cooperation of 14 other nations, to study Mars and its moons Phobos and Deimos. Phobos 2 was launched on July 12, 1988.
Now this is a gigantic object coming up from the surface of Mars.
Like what size are we talking about?
Oh, we're talking about a mile, maybe at least. While it was in orbit, Phobos 2 took a number of other pictures.
Oh, yes, this one.
And that was Phobos 2, yeah. Now this is an underground city on Mars the size of Chicago. And it's generated an enormous amount of heat. It's taken in the infrared. But you can look and you can see the city streets and the blocks and all that, and you know, there's a lot of people living there, I'm sure. A couple of the other pictures that I show regularly in my presentations were taken by Apollo 13 on the way to the moon. That object's 5 miles long. That's a big mothership. I got to know a NASA retired scientist, Norman Berggren, and he published a book called The Ringmakers of Saturn. And in that book, there were a whole bunch of pictures. This one, taken by Voyager 1, 1980, this object here is 2,000 miles long, 450 miles in diameter, and it's artificial, under intelligent control, and it moves around out there.
Now this is actually the ring of Saturn here?
This is one of the rings, a portion of it.
Mr. Dean believes that in order for our world to join the higher order of planetary systems, humanity needs to quickly advance in its development, and thus a global wake-up call for action is urgently needed.
You're living in an infinite universe filled with infinite life, and you're about, as a species, to make this incredible jump into a new age.
Yeah.
But anyhow, there is hope. I'm feeling hopeful about the future of the race. With some help, I know we're going to make it.
While serving in the military in the 1960s, Bob Dean was authorized to read a top-secret document called The Assessment. The assessment concluded that the Earth has been under detailed observation by extraterrestrials since the beginning of human history. Based upon the report and his own first-hand experiences in interacting with otherworldly beings, Mr. Dean believes that their culture, technology, and development far surpass anything found on Earth. We now continue our intriguing discussion with him about intergalactic civilizations and how they are assisting our world in evolving to a higher level of existence.
They have a program underway. Let me tell you something bluntly. They could have brought about full disclosure anytime they wanted. Now, if they were to park some of their giant motherships, the one 5 and 10 miles long, over large American cities, and simply hover over Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, San Francisco, and just sit up there, you know, for a while, they would make the disclosure take place. So they are probably as concerned as some of our military and governmental authorities are to. They don't want to shock people. There is a psychic shock that people can experience when they are confronted with the reality that they're not prepared to deal with, like my experience with them.
What about the UFO sightings that are frequently made across the world? Why do we sometimes see them in the sky?
Some of the craft in your skies are theirs. Some of the craft are ours. Some of the best ones are theirs. We're not quite yet where they are. And one of the reasons you see them is that they're showing themselves to you. They hovered over O'Hare Airport, Chicago, last year. They do this gently and subtly. It's non-threatening. But it's sort of like you say, hey, wake up down there, you know. Look up here. Pay attention. What do you make of this? There's more and more and more of this, and you're going to see, as the year goes on, you're going to see more of the giant triangles hovering over cities, bases, airports. And there are going to be pictures taken, and people are going to look up, and the people are going to say, ooh, what do you suppose? Could it be? So they do that, and they've been doing it for a long time. They're trying to gently bring us to a point where we can accept the reality of their presence without psychic shock, because they want to avoid that. As I say, they know us better than we know ourselves.
So that must be the crop circle phenomenon as well.
The crop circle is a subliminal way of communicating with us. It communicates with our subconscious. Those images, oh, they're incredible. The real ones, the beautiful, beautiful ones, are made by some of them, and they affect us at the sub-level of intelligence, our subconscious. Mm-hmm. And I'm told that there are new ones this season that are just out of this world. Apparently they made 2 circles that were by each individual and are not quite finished, and yet you overlay the images of them and you get the same kind of picture you get on the Shroud of Turin.
Australopithecus, a hominid species that has long been extinct, is considered by scientists to be an ancestor of modern humans. Bob Dean says the creation of the human race is due to the work of beings from beyond our planet.
One of those groups literally had a hand in re-engineering us genetically from old Australopithecus, which was an evolved creature in Africa. And by blending us with their genes, they literally created a new species. They created what we call Homo sapiens sapiens. One of the things I've been shown is that the human genome is literally a gold mine. The human genome is the reason why we as a race and a species are so valuable. Our genome is a blend, a collection of an infinite variety of genetic factors from a number of different groups and races out there. And this little test tube, this little petri dish we're living in down here, is literally a gold mine. Extraterrestrial geneticists look upon this human species, this genome that we are, as unique. We are unique, which makes us precious to them. Now, if we could only get ourselves to grow up enough to recognize where we could start feeling ourselves that we're precious to each other. Oh, that's coming.
As we develop as a species, what is the universe's marker for our progress? Mr. Dean gives his insights.
There are many among us who have developed compassion and love. That is the bottom line. Love. Because we have a creator, and that is one of the factors of that creation. That source of life, that source of light, gives nothing but love. And when you've been out there, as I have, and I've been out there physically, spiritually, you learn that the most powerful, the most overwhelmingly powerful factor in infinite intelligence in life is love. And many human beings are making that step.
Bob Dean says he has not only interacted with extraterrestrials, he has also been on their spaceships and visited their planets. We asked him to describe his interstellar travel experiences.
Out there's no such thing as we understand it, of getting in a ship, pushing the button, cranking up the old motor, and chugging off out there. and traveling from here to there. No, that's not the way it is. That's why we're having such a problem coming to terms with it. They're not limited by that. They don't literally go chugging off from here to there. Their technology is such that they can be there from here like that, literally. They tried to explain to me the fact that there is no death, that out there is no time. There is no such thing as past, present, and future. There is only one eternal now. And we apparently, some of our scientists and some of our technicians have learned some of that because we have developed already 40 years ago hyperluminal flight. Ben Rich, Lockheed Martin, said some years ago, before he died in 95, he said, we can take E.T. home. That was about the time E.T. the movie was out.
On previous occasions, through her insights, Supreme Master Ching Hai has shared with the world some of the history of Mars. Some 40 million years ago, runaway climate change, the result of livestock raising, utterly destroyed Mars's surface and atmosphere. The residents who survived this immense catastrophe, all vegetarians, needed to go inside the planet to stay alive.
There are some Martians still survived. You know, the good one, the virtuous one, they survived. But they could not live the way they lived before. They are underground and they have to recycle everything. Water, vegetable, very little thing they have.
During a video conference with Supreme Master Television staff in Los Angeles, California, USA on October 3, 2010, Supreme Master Ching Hai was asked to comment on Mr. Dean's endeavor to let the world know about a photo taken by the Phobos 2 spacecraft of an underground city on Mars which is approximately the size of Chicago, USA.
So courageous. We have to give him the Hero Award.
Wow.
Wow, we thank him immensely. We thank him so much. This will be very good for humankind to know this. This is a knowledge that all humans should know. Okay?
Yes.
I don't know why they kept it secret. Okay, never mind. Now we know, and it's good. We have to thank Mr. Robert Dean so much. I love this guy. Tell him I love him, alright?
Yes, Master.
Tell him I thank him immensely for this confirmation. Yes. Alright. Oh, thank God that somebody knew about it and confirmed it, huh? It's just good to have confirmation, right?
To find out more about the Sun, the Earth, the cosmos, UFOs, and more, please tune in to Supreme Master Television for the full broadcast of this video conference at a later date on Between Master and Disciples with multi-language subtitles. Mr. Dean has these final thoughts on humanity's future based upon his experiences with extraterrestrial civilizations.
And in closing, I want to say to your viewers that you get a tendency to get a little discouraged and depressed, and you get a little fearful sometimes. But I want to tell you from what I've seen from the past, the present, and the future, that you're in good hands. Remember this, there is a God, there is no death, you are infinite, immortal being, you are sparks of pure divinity yourself. And this race, this species, does have a future. We're going to make it. We're going to get through this transition, this transformation, this adolescence, this painful period we're going through. And there's going to be a new dawn and a new day and a new beginning. And there is a future for the human race, and I want your viewers to take heart, be brave, and love someone.
Perfect.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
And thank you.
thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure and a blessing to have you on our show.
Been
Thank
my
you.
pleasure. And give my regards to the lady.
Supreme Master Chin Hai, yes. Will do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Our sincere appreciation and thanks, Mr. Robert Dean, for your time, efforts, and generosity in bringing forth the critical message about the existence of highly developed extraterrestrials to our world. May you enjoy the best of health always, and every success in your future work. Precious viewers, thank you for your presence today on our program. May humanity soon achieve ever higher levels of consciousness and realize that we are the children of God.
For more details, please visit www.suprememastertv.com/SS